Hello and welcome to shit. Hold on. I'm so
Welcome
used to
to
saying
shit.
duels.
I think this is episode 20, right?
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so used to saying raw. Should we just keep this in here? Hello and welcome to season 5, episode 20 of Duelist Community. I am what I am, not spiritual, as my name may indicate here. I'm not what you think. I'm not what I think. I'm not going through the things that I think I'm going through, even though I am. It's not ever what I perceive to be happening, in my limited idea of what I'm going through couldn't possibly be the entire picture. So even realizing that there's a bigger picture, a picture that I'm not able to see the entire size of or implications of, and just the uncertainty of that, what else there is, what else is going on from a scaled out point of view. Not being able to know that, it gets harder to settle upon some idea of what's actually going on. And yeah, so I'm willing to not settle, or becoming more willing to not settle on some idea, some limited perspective of what's going on right now.
My audio stuff was not working, apparently. Aha.
I was going to ask, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I couldn't hear.
No, that's perfect.
Okay, sweet.
So all of that is not part of the podcast episode. So that's the point, I guess, is that we record these podcast episodes and we record these introductions, and it's very easy to get caught up in doing the podcast intro where we think, we're sharing something valuable and insightful and all of that. And we are. Genuinely, just because we're going through whatever it is we're going through. But there is always this kind of worry, this pressure that you could be tempted to look at in doing these introductions, because you think to yourself, what do I have to pass on? Am I saying something that's profound? Am I saying something that's going to resonate? Am I saying something that's going to land? And immediately, as you feel that, you're like, I don't know. And you just say what you're going to say. And in this case, it was admitting to everybody that half the time we don't know what we're going to say. This introduction isn't pre-scripted. I'm not thinking about it, and I certainly don't want it to come across as an introduction. Obviously it is, because this is the beginning of the episode, but it's just a conversation. It's a conversation with Andrew. It's a conversation with you and the listener. This is why we are recording this one live again, as we did with, I believe it was episode 14, because that was a lot of fun. We're doing this live because the point is more and more that it's not about being scripted. It's not about having the right things to say. It's not about our impact on you at all. It really is about your impact on you. It really is about what you're doing with this conversation. The more I'm trying to teach you something, the more you're trying to learn something. And that is not what this is about, because what are you trying to learn? Yourself? How can I teach you that? All I can do is tell you a little bit about myself, if I'm honest. A little bit about what I'm learning about my experience, if I'm honest and transparent and vulnerable. And maybe you'll glean something from that, because maybe our experiences are similar in their undercurrents, in terms of there being judgment and doubt and fear and the need for control and all of that stuff. Like, maybe there are some similarities for sure, but I cannot teach you how to be yourself. Andrew can't teach you to be yourself. This is just a discussion. This is all this is meant to be. And so I just want to say, dear listener, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening and following along and taking what you can from this, from episode to episode to episode. We really appreciate it. We're on season 5, episode 20. That's insane. There are so many episodes that we've made now. We're over 300 episodes in. We're over 1 million views in total. It's incredible, but I genuinely believe that it's because we're not trying to come across as podcasters. I genuinely feel that it is not because we are trying to make this grow, but because we are growing. And we're trying to express our growth with as few filters as possible. And so you can express your growth with as few filters as possible, which is what the community is an opportunity for you to express that growth which is why we have our Patreon groups. This is why we do our retreats. It's because we all want to express the growth that we're working on. We're just afraid to do so in a world that resists that growth. So join us. In fact, you already are. But if you can join us at any of these events, at any of our groups, on our community Discord, it's just a chance to express yourself, very much like we are doing here. It's not about how people are interpreting us. It's not about how we are being received. It's not about how we're being perceived. It's not about you, frankly, to us. In the way it shouldn't be about us to you. It should be about you.
Yeah, because if it was about you or other people or me doing things for someone else, I would feel more of an urge to try and control the situation or to have something that's pre-scripted or some idea of what to say or the right thing to say or the right thing to do going into something. But if all we're trying to get across is that you don't have to prepare in the same way, because any preparation, any pre-scripted idea that you have going into a situation is just holding on to one tiny itty bitty perspective of the right thing to do or the right thing to say, prioritizing what you think is best for people to hear. And as opposed to just embodying the thing you're trying to get across, which is that no one has to go into something with all of these ideas of the right thing to do, the right thing to say, the right thing to put out into the world. You can just put yourself out there. You can just put yourself into a situation and see what comes out and enjoy the experience and appreciate just the experience of not forcing yourself to live up to such a ridiculous bar or some idea of the right thing to do or the right thing to say. So coming up with you can't get that across by coming up with some pre-scripted way of saying. You don't have to be pre-scripted. Like, you can just do things as they come up, and that experience, it's so funny, like, growing up, that idea of being adequately prepared, like, make sure you're super ready for what's to come. And, like, what does that even mean? Be ready for uncertainty? Like, be ready for something that you can't know about what's going to happen. Like, you can't know how something's going to go. You can't know how something's going to be received. You can't know how something's going to be taken in or heard or understood. And it's going to be understood or heard or listened to or taken in a multitude of ways. And so even the idea of being prepared for something, it's just a way to allow yourself to feel a little bit more comfortable or in control, despite being in no more control than you were just going into it and seeing what happens. Just going into it, or freeing yourself to allow yourself to just let it go and just see what comes out or see what happens. But as long as you're trying to keep certain experiences or not go through certain things or not feel certain things, gonna have to prepare, have some idea of what to say, because you're if not, you're gonna risk, not knowing what to say or not knowing what to do, or not, and that's just not having faith in yourself. And so going into something uncertain with faith in yourself, it's not even about saying anything perfectly. Like, that's not what it's about either. It's not like relax so you can do it as well as you possibly can, so you can be your best self, your top tier self, that polished self, because it's not about being polished. It's not about being perfect. It's not about saying the exact right thing that you can get to through relaxing and not preparing, because then you'll always be saying the perfect thing. It's not about any of those things. We can come up with an idea of what we think the perfect thing to say is, or at least trade off that sensitivity for doing what I think is best, or avoiding the feeling of a lack of control or a lack of certainty. And that's all I'm doing when I'm overly preparing. And I'm not necessarily saying that there's a right or wrong way to go into something. Like, if you want to prepare, you can prepare, but there's almost like a different experience when you're willing to just go into something and find out what happens, like find out what you're capable of, because any preparation is going to be based on things it's going to be based on typically things you've done, like tried and true methods, something that someone else has done, something that someone else has proven or shown to be the right way, or the way to run a podcast episode, the way to do an interview. This is the right way to do it. Just do this and follow these steps, and then you'll be a podcaster and you'll be good at doing interviews. And all of that is like, okay, but where's the development? Where's the not improvement, but evolution of certain things? Like, we'll come up with something and then come up with ways to do it, structures on how to do it. And there's no evolution in that. There's no shifts, there's no changes. It's just figure something out, do something that allows me to feel comfortable and more or less stagnate. But as long as it's helping me, then that's all I care about. But there's no evolution in that. And so if we're in a world where we're always trying to be prepared for everything, there's not as much of a shift and change and evolution in that spot, because all I want to do is make sure that I continue to feel comfortable, that I don't get thrown into a situation I'm not prepared for, because anything could happen. It's like, exactly, anything could happen, including all of the things that you couldn't even comprehend or you couldn't even consider because it's not even in your purview. And that's when things start to change. That's when new insights arise, new thoughts arise. When you go into something like, I have no idea what the fuck is about to happen, I don't really know what I'm going to say, which is what we went into this episode doing. And so, yeah, we'll see where it goes. But even just the willingness to just go into it and see what comes out and see what happens and continue to just be involved in the situation, like, that's when you start surprising yourself and things start evolving. And you start evolving when you go into things uncertain. As long as you're sure, it's like you're trading off that comfort and certainty, or perceived certainty, for a lack of evolution and growth. It's like you kind of have to be willing to let go in order to see yourself grow, or grow at a more rapid pace than you would as you're trying to hold on to, the right way of doing something.
And that's the point, is that there is no right way to do what? What are we doing? Anything that you answer is relative to what you assume somebody else's perception is. Like, even the idea of perfection. It's like, oh, it could be judged according to what scale? What scale? And it's your scale. You're just projecting it onto somebody else. This episode is live, as I said, and as such, you can participate in the comment section. Anybody who is here at the moment, the comment section is on the screen. This is going to be published later on as an episode on our YouTube channel. So feel free to jump in, ask questions, share your insights, share your experiences. Somebody has already left a comment talking about the upcoming retreat and about the impact of just being a part of the community. Because again, it's a community of one. It's a community of you working on yourself and talking to other people who are genuinely taking responsibility and working on themselves. And it changes the entire conversation, because nobody's looking to anyone else to solve their problems. We're just talking about how we're solving our own problems, how we're moving past the perception that there are problems, recognizing which hill is perceived to be worth dying on, and then going, yeah, but that's really dumb. And it's just because we don't need to make ourselves suffer that way. So you are here and you're in the episode if you're watching this live. And if you're not, do join us for a live stream whenever you can. That said, though, if you are watching this through whatever platform, it would really help if you would retweet or like or repost or do whatever it is. Because again, we're going to be here for a little bit, and we'd love to get as many people as possible involved in the conversation, because that's what really this is all about. That's all dualistic unity is about, frankly, is just the conversation. It's a conversation you almost never run into. This is by far the biggest review that we get from everybody. We get a message going, oh, wow, I just ran across season 1, and I thought I was the only person who thought like this. Nobody ever wants to talk about these things. And that's it. That's the response that we get. And it's like, yeah, I get that. That's why we're doing this. Right? That's why. For me, especially, I did this for over half my life, just working through these questions, pondering this stuff, because there's value there. I can see the value in freedom. I understand the consequence of thinking I have control, of identifying too much with my thoughts. I get all that. Right. And so for me, having gone through that by myself, I recognize what it is to feel like you're isolated and you're surrounded by a world that's going, what are you thinking about? What are you talking about? That sounds crazy. Letting go of control. Just identifying and compete and, own other things like everybody else wants you to do, and just play along with the system. Close your eyes, just go for those immediate satisfactions. And you're just like, well, I don't want to do that. And so you're judged by people who don't understand why you're doing what you're doing. Because it's all on you understanding why you're doing what you're doing. And you take that responsibility. But wouldn't it be nice, I've thought to myself, to have a room with a few people where you're like, hey, I want to have this conversation? Because up until dualistic unity for me, it's very much like walking around an insane asylum. And I've described it that way, where every once in a while, if you keep your voice down, you don't get too much and you don't bring too much attention to yourself, you'll see somebody else who's got that twinkle of curiosity in their eye, somebody else who's just like, I'm alive. I'm taking responsibility for this. I can feel the fire of my own existence a little bit. I want to know more. I'm willing to take that step. And you're like, hey, I see you. Shh, we'll talk later when we can. And that's it. But it was so far and few in between. It was so rare to be able to see those people that I decided, well, it'd be nice if I just stood here and started talking about it, which is the TikTok account. But I was talking about it for my daughter at the time. And then I realized I really wasn't. I was talking about it because I've always been talking about it. I mean, why not talk about it? And then Andrew came along and he's like, wow, yeah, I've been talking about this shit too. I'd like to talk some more. And then people started listening and they're like, this is the stuff I love to talk about. This is it. This is all we're doing, is we're introducing a conversation that many of us have been wanting to have, but we haven't found an environment that's accepting of it. So we're making that environment by being it. And I love that. I find it very exciting. So we have some comments on the screen. I'm going to pass it over to Andrew since I had a good little rant there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, this is it's always fun going live for these. Yeah, so question, what is the difference between love and detachment? So that is going to depend a lot on how you define those things, but I think both of them kind of come down to like expectations. And I think the idea of detachment, like that can be taken in a lot of different ways. Like detaching yourself from a situation can be a means of avoiding responsibility in a lot of ways, but it can also be just a relinquishing of expectations. So I think in a lot of ways they're very similar. And I know the question is, what's the difference? But this is just how I'm going to talk about it because this is what I feel like talking about. And so expectations, when you love someone, it's like there's the whole hallmark pitch of love and what love is, and it's turned into like this fucking need that we have. Like, I need love in my life. I need to love myself, or as long as I love myself, I don't need someone else. Or but if I don't love myself, I need someone else. And it's like, oh, all right, that's a lot of assumptions about what you think you need. But love really comes down to like not having an expectation of someone being anything other than what they are, which doesn't mean that you need to love everyone in the sense of treating everyone like really nicely, like, oh, I love you. Oh, I love you too. Oh, like all the love and light sort of stuff. Oftentimes, which we've seen recently at something like a retreat or in certain situations, like love is the recognition of certain behavior and not continuing to enable that behavior, which in the moment doesn't seem very loving. And yet it is, in the sense that it isn't maybe comfortable in the moment. A lot of times we confuse love with comfort. Like, oh, I just, hey, let's just be loving here. Which can oftentimes be, let's just continue to act in the way that's enabled this person to continue to act in the way that they're acting, as opposed to recognizing certain consequences to certain actions. And it's like it can be an avoidance mechanisms. And so with detachment is, I think, similar in the sense that you're not detached from reality, but you're detached from your assumptions or needs for reality to be a certain way, or expectations of what you think reality should be relative to what it is. And so without so many expectations of what I think I should be, or what I think someone else should be, or what I think reality should be relative to what it actually is, like that being what's left is love. Like, is a lack of expectation for anyone or anything to be any different than they are, but that doesn't mean that it's like you're accepting of yourself, you're accepting of reality, you're accepting of people, but not without continued action and sensitivity. Like, there's still sensitivity and responsibility involved. It's not a separation where I'm closing my eyes. It's keeping my eyes open, but not maintaining so much of an assumption based on my limited perspective of what I think it should be. And so I think that in that way, detachment and love are very similar in the lack of, the finite expectation that I have of myself or someone else or reality to be different than what they are or I am right now.
Good answer. See, it's funny because I have the benefit now of having sat here for a few minutes, pondered my answer. and so I get to just come up with this thing that's going to be like, wow, gosh, guys. It's just because, yeah, I've been sitting here for a while. I think it really helps it helped me at one point to recognize there was a difference between detachment and non-attachment. That non-attachment was just a state of acceptance, and detachment often came from almost like the act of pushing away, of going, there is no attachment whatsoever, I'm going to make sure that there is none. So it's almost like an action based on you and your perception of a need for safety, of a need for space, that kind of thing. And so if that were the case, if we were to look at detachment versus non-attachment there, which would be, again, the difference between detachment and love. I mean, what's the difference between detachment in the way that I've just described it and love? How much of you is involved? Because the more of you that's involved, the more you're protecting this idea of yourself, the less love you're able to reflect, because you're not able to reflect love for yourself in the same way. So I would say that would be the biggest difference, is how much of you is involved, how much of you is the focus. Because love is something that remains when we are not trying to feel anything, when we're not trying to feel more complete, when we're not looking to somebody to satisfy us, when we have no preconditions upon that person. It's just acceptance. Love is what remains when we're not trying to do anything. That's why everybody loves each other until they start dividing. This is why children get along right away, young children especially, right? For the most part. And it's why? It's because they have no reason not to. They haven't created reasons not to. That's something that we learn to do over time. Unless they're bitchy. It's a little bit different, but that's different than a conscious cerebral reason.
Yeah, because once you start having that idea of yourself and idea of other people, and then it's like every interaction becomes either based on fear or judgment or some preconceived idea of how you should act or how someone else should act. And so there's all of these other things taken into consideration that maybe aren't as informative. They're actually distractions from the situation that you're going through, the situation that you're in right now. In my opinion of someone else or something else it's like it's not even allowing me to see that person, because as soon as I have an opinion of them, it's relative to an opinion of myself or some idea of what they should be or what I should be. And it's like it's all based on expectation, like unnecessary expectations. And so as soon as we start thinking about ourselves in a certain way or feeling a need to do something about some assumption about myself, like there isn't as much love left. And it's funny, even like even saying the word love, because I know as soon as that's heard, especially right now, it's like there's all these ideas that come into play. And so I feel almost funny even saying love, because it's not so much the thing that you immediately think of. Like it's not even like a positive or a good feeling. It's like, oh, I'm not feeling the love right now. And because not everything requires that. Like in when you're sensitive to a situation, like not everything's gonna need love to be, or need those good feelings to be involved in it. And yeah, I had a point there, and like it's shaken me. Yeah, I kind of was just, that was one of those situations where open my mouth, see what comes out, and as I'm like start fighting for something more to come out, and it's not happening. So
I hear
pass it
you,
back
but
to
you
you.
inspired me, so I'll run with the ball for a bit.
Yeah.
It's funny because often I think we tend to misinterpret loving somebody with making them feel good, which you don't have control over. And this is something that a lot of parents misinterpret. I love my kid, therefore I got to make sure they're always happy. It's like, if you love your kid, you should be teaching them responsibility, emotional intelligence, right? Like that's the whole thing. And that has nothing to do with you making them happy. It's so much as you empowering them, you understanding that they can only make them happy. And so truly loving somebody is just accepting them. There is nothing more loving than just allowing a person to be who they are without preconception, without you going, but they should be better. They are where they are. Would you like it if somebody was constantly looking at you like, but you should be better? And what's funny is that if you're doing that to yourself, you might actually say yes to that.
And it's like, better according to what? Like, better according to what idea? Like perfection, all of these things. Like, when I think about it, I don't even know what I'm looking at. Like, what does that even mean? And who's to say that exactly what I'm doing right now isn't perfect? Like, having some idea of what perfection is such a finite, narrow, like zoomed in perspective of what's going on, and to think like all the things that you learn throughout your life, like to get, maybe get really good at a certain task or a certain thing that you do, you're probably going to be not good at it for a while, but you can't just like, boom, be really good at something, because that's not even, like, that's not perfection. And again, perfection is such an arbitrary term that it's funny even trying to come up with a perfect idea, like a perfect way of doing something. Based on what? Like, based on what is my end game to this, of trying to be perfect, of trying not to stumble, of trying to never make a mistake? It's like, Jesus Christ, it's like that's kind of in a sense the experience of hell right now. If I'm trying to be perfect, like trying to be perfect in each and every situation is hell. Like heaven isn't being perfect. Like being in a relaxed, calm, chill environment is just your experience. Like there's not a curated environment that is perfect, because you're your environment all the time. Like you're always your environment. And so trying to live up to some standard, some idea of what you should be, there's going to be a fight and resistance or fear of what you are almost always. And to think of that perfection, like I would, if I think that's what perfection is, then I don't want to be perfect at all. That sounds like an incredibly stressful, difficult, frustrating way of living my fucking life. That sounds like the experience of hell, is trying to never stumble. It's like, yeah, you can do that and be in a prison your whole life, like never make a mistake, never jump into anything new where you maybe don't feel super comfortable right away. Like, oh man, even the idea of being good at something is entire, like it's all subjective. It's all just assumption. Like, oh, I'm really good at this thing. Like, when? At what time? Like, what part of the day? Like, is it one individual moment that you're good at it? Is it an entire situation that you're good at it? Is it based on an outcome? Is it based on, someone else? If you play fucking ping pong and you say, oh, I'm really good at ping pong. It's like, until you play someone that's really, really good, and then you feel like you're really bad all of a sudden. And it's like this fluctuation all the time relative to your environment. But if I didn't have so much of an idea of what's going on in my environment, or didn't judge my environment in so many ways as imperfect or perfect or really bad or really good. Like even that, judging my environment isn't just a negative thing. Oftentimes it can be judging like, oh, that person's really good at this, or I want to be that person, or I wish I had that person's life. And that's just such a fucking tiny little itty bitty perception of them. But as long as I hold on to that, as long as I think I'm sure that that person's life is great, I'm going to compare it to my own. And then I'm going to feel bad if I don't think my life is living up to that person's life. And I can say firsthand that just because someone's life looks like something on the outside does not mean it feels like that on the inside at all, ever. And so when you start to recognize that, you feel certain ways in comparison. Because if there weren't so many comparative ways that we have of living, there wouldn't be so much relativity and judgment of myself. Because my idea of perfection is like built off of my idea of what other people's lives are doing or what other people are. And my fear of, stumbling, falling is just looking at someone else and being like, oh, they never fall. Meanwhile, they've fallen a bajillion times to the point that now they just are more sensitive or they've just done it more times. Like that's really what getting better at something is just doing all the ways to do it poorly or not well over and over and over until you just keep doing it enough that you have less concern for it and then you keep doing it. But as long as I hold on to this idea that, oh, someone else is really good at this or their life's great or I want to be like that, I want to be like them. It's the same as the other side of like, oh, I don't want that to happen. I don't want to be like that person. Meanwhile, it could be the totally flip thing. Like someone, oh, that person's life looks terrible, awful. Meanwhile, they're good. They're okay with themselves right now. They're actually doing quite all right. But I have an idea of what they're doing, and I have no idea about how it's actually going for them. But without all of those ideas, it's a lot harder to have a certain idea of how I'm doing. If I don't really know how anyone else is doing ever, I can't possibly understand the depths of their experience besides through my own, but not having that certainty of how they're doing or how their life is going, it gets a lot harder to have an idea of how I'm doing without all of those assumptions about everyone else. And then when I just come back to myself, it's like there isn't necessarily so much I feel like I have to live up to anymore. It's like, what the fuck am I living up to? Just a bunch of assumptions about how I think I should be and how that's going to play out to make my life better. It's like, so I'm making my life miserable right now in order to make it better in some future. It's like, that doesn't really make much fucking sense.
But that's the point, is that it seems like it makes sense when you're just chasing the next feeling, when you're not keeping anything in context, when you're just looking at, well, that makes me feel better. Right now I'm suffering. This is going to take care of my suffering. It's like, are you sure? That's the path to addiction. Like, I'm suffering. This will take care of that. I'll need more of that. I'll need more of that. And you just need a longer term view, right? Like, that's the whole thing, is that when we look at how we think, when we look at how we're coping with uncertainty, with reality as a whole, you can understand. You can understand, especially when you look at children. Like, children have very little in the way of survival ability. Let's just say, like, they're smart, don't get me wrong, kids will bounce and they'll do all of that, but they're small and they're fragile, and frankly there's a lot of shit they don't know, right? And so it's kind of like us as we get older. We just, there's a lot of stuff we don't know. There's a lot of stuff we don't know. I lost my point halfway through that sentence because I saw a whole bunch of stuff on the screen. I was like, oh, look, people are commenting. And that just makes me very excited when people are commenting, far more than whatever point I was about to make. By the way, I do want to mention, while everybody's here, that all of this, being a podcaster, being a life coach before now, all of this has been an exercise in me accepting that I really don't know if I have anything valuable to share. Like, I'm past the point where I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I know exactly what people should hear, because it's worked for me so well that I got to go out and tell people how well it's working for me. And so after a while, I started recognizing that it's just, I do have a unique view of the world because I've adopted my own view of the world, right? Which brings me back to the point that I was going to make a few minutes ago, is that We only get better at what we're doing when we are the ones doing it. And so much of our mentality is that the world is being done to us. That we are suffering. Oh, my thoughts are really, really kicking the shit out of me today. Like, oh, the world's really making it hard to feel good about myself. And so it's never us making ourselves feel any particular way. And so as long as it's not solely our responsibility, we're never really learning about it. We're never really learning how we're responsible or what we're doing in that moment, because we're passing the buck. And that's kind of the point. Like, if I were to teach you how to use, I don't know, a power drill, but I'm like holding your hand for you and doing all the work. I'm like, no, you're drilling. Oh, good job. Like that, you're not learning a thing. You're not learning a thing. And so that's very much the point, is that if you're not solely responsible for how you're reacting to this moment, how can you get better at it? Right? But it's not a process of trying to get better at it, just doing it more. That's it. Just being solely responsible for you now. And the more that you do that, which isn't an act of doing anything so much as not making excuses, not passing the buck, not creating fictions to run to, it's a cessation of effort. That's the funniest part. It's not an effort to be responsible. It's a cessation of effort, because then you're paying attention here. All of that effort is going into control that doesn't exist here. And so it's really interesting that all you need to do is just relax, pay attention, and you'll get better at doing so. But you'll also start to experience the world in a different way. We were talking about this in our Patreon group earlier today. How as you get better at this whole, I don't need to be more and I don't need to run away from being less, you abandon the carrot and the stick, you suddenly find yourself in this place where you're like, this isn't really egotistically satisfying. I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. I don't feel like I have anything to conquer or anything to become anymore. And all the carrots just don't have the same appeal. Well, at that point, life changes tone. You start to experience things differently, because you're not looking for immediate satisfaction. You're dictating your level of satisfaction with now. It's never that something else will make you more than now. It's never that something else could make you happier than you can be right now, because it's always on you. It's always on you. So the lure of the carrot and the terror of the stick just stop meaning anything, because it's you realize that you're the one hitting yourself or shoving a carrot in your mouth.
That's some solid imagery. Getting a whip in one hand and then a carrot in the other, just like choking yourself and whipping yourself. It sounds like something on some fucking triple X rated porno DVD or some shit. Just like you got a few people in the room watching. It's like a dark room. I'm not saying I've ever seen anything like that, but it's in there. The imagination's a wild place. But it's funny because as you before, as you were like, oh, I forgot my point, I was also reading the comments, but like I started to hear you more like right before you said, oh, I just lost my point. And I don't know if it was that I heard you, or I just, as you said it, it was like the memory of it was there. And it was like my attention all of a sudden shifted to that comment. And I don't even necessarily remember exactly what it was anymore, but it was the comment, something about children and doing it yourself. And then you came back around to doing it yourself. And it reminded me of like I didn't play a ton of video games growing up, but I played some like sports games and like being a character, like create a player sort of thing. And it almost gave me the thought of, if you were to say create a player from scratch, and it's almost like not being as responsible. There's the opportunity, say you have two options. One is to have someone else who's really, really good at video games, kind of like contorting you a little bit, like when like helping you shoot a little harder, just somehow there's like some extra boosts. And so your person that you create starts out at a little bit of a higher level, but because someone else is helping you along the way, the rate of progress is like really, really, really slow. Whereas the other option is to start at maybe like 10s across the board out of 100 instead of like 50 skill level across the board. But each time you do shit, like it's on you. So it's going to be more frustrating, but it's also the rate of improvement is that much more drastic and it happens much more rapidly. Whereas when someone's helping you out a ton, it kind of like is this forced stagnation because it's like, now I'm getting like, it's like if you're in the pool and someone's trying to help you swim, like imagine someone trying to help you swim and they're like holding on to you, like pushing you along, thinking that they're helping you go faster, but it's like you're swimming. So any sort of grip that's on you, any sort of thing that's on you is it's gonna create drag, and then it's gonna create more drag, even if they're just there connected to you somehow. Whereas as they let go, it's like there isn't the necessarily the support, but there's the opportunity to swim at the rate that you can. And so as there are people who have certain perspectives or see things in a certain way and you start seeing things in other ways, like there's going to be a certain degree of drag with that in those situations, from certain perspectives. And so being able to explore your fullest potential is taking that responsibility for your experience. And so it's not necessarily even a correct or a right way of doing it, but it's just being responsible for yourself in the sense of doing, not passing it off and when there isn't the passing off of like, oh, this happened for this reason, it's because of this, I'm frustrated because of this, frustrated because of that. It's like every situation is going to be the opportunity for me to take responsibility no matter what my perception of the situation is. It's like, oh, this person's doing this person's doing that, and oh, they're holding me back. It's like even the thought of the swimming pool example, if someone's holding on or you feel like someone's holding on and really they're not, but you think they are, and so you're like, oh, they're holding me back. They're giving me this drag. It's like, no, it's still you holding on to whatever perception of them doing their thing because they're still just doing their thing as they're going along. And it's always you're the one holding on to the expectation of them to be different than they are. And so it's just, yeah, it's interesting when you start to realize that, oh, no, I can just do it on my own. And even for me more recently, like looking to even any sort of structure, like even with social media, like some right way of fucking posting a video or looking at another video trying to get inspiration and shit like that. Like I used to do that. I don't do that as much anymore. And so it's because you can't have brand new things if it's something that someone else is doing. And maybe sure you come up with something and then you realize, oh, that was probably influenced by this, that was probably influenced by that. And you can maybe come up with that. But it's like if there's all of these things being taken in at all times, like an infinite number of perceptions, stimulation that we don't even realize, like we'll focus on certain things, but our mind, our brain is still taking in so many things at all times. And then when you're not, at least when you're not trying to follow something, or you are just willing to, explore what you come up with when you're like, how do I want to do this? And it's not even coming up with a way of doing it, like a preconceived way of doing it. It's just, let's see how this comes out. I'm just going to make this how it's made and not try and be so perfect with it necessarily. And who knows, then maybe you create something that's a brand new, like an actually novel thing. And, to that previous point, people will argue that there are no novel things in reality, which I find kind of interesting. And like how much of that is just assuming that like we have to look towards structures, but there is a bunch of shit in there that hasn't really been explored in a unique way. So how much is that assumption that, oh, there's nothing novel in reality, everything's based on everything else? It's like, well, kind of, but also definitely not. Like, is everything not fresh here and now until you start holding on to some ideas of and as soon as you try and come up with a certainty of what it is, then it's gonna be based on something that exists, or I know what that is. Oh, I've seen that before. Oh, I get that. Oh, that must be this. Oh, that must be that. You hear it for fucking belief systems. It's like, oh, what are you guys? You guys Buddhist or what? Just like, oh my God. Like people just want to know. And it's like, I'm here. I'm just here and I'm not fucking spiritual like I put on my name today. Like it's not a belief system. It's just the basic recognition of I'm here now and that's all I've ever been. And I can just do that. Like I can just be that. I don't have to hold on to some expectation of myself to be something more or fear being something less because they're all just fucking assumptions. Anyway.
But that's it. It's hard to communicate the just the uncommunicable in terms of presence and awareness and attention and being yourself and all of these words that we used, nirvana, God, the Tao, they're all just words that are attempting to describe something that you just can't get someone to see because it requires so much in terms of depth, right? It'd be like, talking to somebody sitting on the ground about something that's buried 20 feet beneath them. And you, because you've dug, can see it clearly. But from where they're sitting, they can't see it at all. They're like, oh yeah, no, that sounds really good. That sounds amazing. Wow, you feel like, wow. But it's just that. It's just that they haven't dug, so they can't see it themselves. And it's because of the immediacy that's required in what we're talking about. Like we were talking about, how taking responsibility for your path, for taking responsibility for your moment, your experience here and now changes things because there's an immediate element to that. It's actually where things are happening here and now. And the same thing is true with perceiving change, right? Like as much as it's true that you've developed a habit over time, to tell yourself that you will untangle that habit over time actually cuts how effectively you can untangle that habit now. By saying, I can only stop it here, you do far more in terms of impacting that long-term habit because you're not even looking at it as a long-term habit. You're not justifying that narrative. You're not telling yourself that you're not enough to just end it now. Right? So it's always that immediacy. It's always, if not now, when? Right? Which is what I love about the whole Zen thing. This is, again, their whole point. Like, where are you trying to go? What are you trying to get to? What's the spiritual path you're on? It's got to be even frustrating for people who understand Zen that it's called Zen, because that's kind of the point, is that we're not talking about anything except life, talking about existence, but we're talking about a depth of your own awareness that cannot be communicated through concepts. It can only be communicated in kind of a look over there, and then let that person go through the fire until they're like, oh, fuck, that's what they were talking about. Right? Because of necessity, they're paying attention and suddenly something rings a bell. Right? But that's it. This is why expression is so important. This is why it's so important for people to just, go through the shit, talk, fuck up, have a conversation that's awkward, have a conversation that doesn't go well. Stop trying to cater to everything. Stop trying to make everything fucking pleasant. If you love yourself, accept yourself. And that means when you're not being friendly, when people don't fucking like you, when you are feeling lonely, all of that shit is part of your existence. Keep it simple. Keep it direct. You don't have to overthink everything. I was talking to somebody the other day and we were talking about, setting boundaries and confrontation, especially with a loved one. It's how do I, and this is actually how it came across. How do I just tell this person that I don't appreciate the way that they're treating me, that I'm going to have to establish boundaries and put some distance if they continue to treat me like that? How do I tell them this? My response was just like that. Just like that. Like you just did, with the words coming out of your mouth and everything. There's no difference except that you're saying it to somebody else. And at the moment, you have lots of reasons that that's somehow different, but it's not. You're still talking for you. You're just afraid to talk for you because of what the impact might be. But that's also for you. Oh my God, this person's not going to be happy with me. Who's that for? Is that for them? That's for you. You're the one who needs to be liked. You're the one who needs them to be happy with you. You're the one who's trying to get a specific response out of them, thinking it's the right way, rather than thinking about whether or not you're being honest with you, whether you're living for you. Because if you're not, that shit's going to ruin your life. Because then no matter what you do, you can't learn from it because it's not for you. You're a victim. You're chasing the carrot. You're running from the stick. You're at the mercy of the world. Oh, it's the best I could do. Blah, blah. It's you. It's just your response to you. And if you're willing to take that, if you're willing to go, yeah, fuck, I just lost my job. I'm losing my place. I'm not sure where I'm going to go. Things are really, really uncertain. I can just do what I can. Rather than going, look at all those reasons for me to panic. Look at all of those reasons for me to... No, it's just you. It's just you choosing. You're just giving the reasons power. You're just justifying it with reasons because, frankly, you want to panic. And it's because you think panicking is somehow going to give you control in the same way that a drowning man will reach out for anybody, even if it's fucking drowning them, right? They're not thinking about it. And so it all comes back down to fear. It's just all you can do is move forward, which is all you've ever had. That's all you've ever had in the present. And you can panic if you'd like to, but the only reason you are is because all of the reasons you're giving yourself to do so. If you stopped giving yourselves reasons to panic, you'd find yourself to be quite calm. It's just that we're very set on believing our thoughts. We're very set on, I guess, doubling down on this idea that what my brain is producing is the truth. Because the alternative is, frankly, that it's not. And that can be a little jarring when you're reaching for an idea to make you feel better. And that's all we're ever doing is reaching for an idea to make us feel better, an idea of you, an idea of people, an idea of the world, an idea of what's going to happen next, an idea of where you've come from and what you've learned and what you're learning and how you're doing and all that shit. It's all just to make you feel better. Feel better about what? About how complex life is? You're going to feel a lot of different ways about how complex life is. You're going to feel a lot of different ways. Sometimes you're going to feel shitty. Sometimes you're going to feel good. Sometimes you're going to be like, yeah, I got this shit down. Other times you're going to be like, what the fuck is happening? And all of it's okay. All of it's okay. But immediately we're like, but shouldn't I be feeling good all the... No, because it's a pendulum. You just have to go through it. You're going to feel shitty, and that's going to inform feeling good, which is going to inform feeling shitty, which is going to inform feeling good, until finally you're like, oh, fuck, that's how I work. And that's all you're really doing. It's not that you're trying to get somewhere you feel good all the time. You're trying to understand, why do you need to? Because that need is what creates so much of your suffering. And isn't that a kick in the teeth? That your very commitment to trying to feel better is what makes you feel so much worse. And that's it. This is why I've said to my daughter recently, stop chasing happy. Stop trying to chase feeling better, because all you're doing is making this moment suck more. You're taking away your power here by trying to chase somewhere else. And it's in this moment that you can feel what you're feeling and decide what your response is to it, because that's far more important than trying to change what you're feeling. It's your response that matters. You can feel anything. It doesn't have to bury you. But do you perceive that it will? And why?
Woo, shit. That was a nice little rant there. I know I saw some comments coming through like, clip that shit. And that was like 3 minutes ago. But how often, like, fuck, dude, realizing that it's okay to not feel great all the time. Like, how often, like, thinking back to when I had my morning routine, and I would constantly just be like, go through gratitude, go through positivity, go through certain perspectives to make myself feel better right now. And it was all this work to like create some fucking perspective so that I can feel like relatively, even the thought of like, oh, I could be could be dead right now, so at least I'm not dead. And it's like, yeah, that can be a valuable perspective to hold on to. But just in and of itself, the recognition, like feeling like dog shit, feeling like I'm in the shit, feeling caught up in stuff doesn't have to be something that I think shouldn't be happening. Like I can understand that there are things going on that I don't understand. I can realize that there are things happening that I can't be sure about. So how can I have an adequate opinion of what's going on? And the other part you said was with the idea. Like your brain comes up with ideas, it's not correct. Like you can come up with so many different ideas of yourself. You can be so sure. It's like, well, no, I'm this way because even if someone says it, oh, this person said I was this way. It's like one fucking person based on one little perspective you're now holding on to, and you're thinking that that's the all and everything. It's not ever like that. That idea is not correct. Like you can sit here going through all the perspectives, going through all the hypotheticals, going through all the thoughts about yourself, what you think you are, how much of a piece of shit, how fucking amazing and gift to the world you are. They're both incorrect. They're never correct. And how, whew, it's like, oh shit. Well, so what do I have then, if not my perspective of myself? You have here, this moment, right now. And then to your point about fucking habits, like even that, like the only thing you can do is not do that shit right now. You have something that you're, oh, long term shit, and like I've had a couple things where I've realized that like that's not changing tomorrow. The only place it's changing is right now. The only place that I'm doing something differently or having sensitivity or being focused on what's actually real or being, recognizing how I don't actually know what I am. I don't actually know that perspective. The only place that any of that shit goes down is right now. The only place that I let go of my assumptions about what I think I should be, my expectations of myself, my thoughts about let go of my thoughts about how I should be perfect or I should be better than I am. Like this is the only spot I can do that. And as I do that more and more, I start to realize like, oh fuck. It is just me holding on to some perspective right now. Like that's the alpha and the omega, the beginning of the end of that entire idea. Like that whole entire fucking idea of myself is right now. Like I'm holding on to it right now, and yet it continues to fluctuate like the variable. It's the X variable that keeps changing, but it's still that same container that keeps shifting, but it's never been the same thing in the container. It's just this idea of myself being some container that's separate from everything else. And so therefore there can be an idea that fits into it. But if there's not a container, there can't be an idea that fits into that container. Because there's not a container, there's not some separate me, separate from everything else. And so it gets harder and harder to even come up with some idea of what I am as I start to recognize that there isn't a container that I'm not maintaining right now. It's not even some spanned out container that has a depth that's like, oh, it's been this and it could be this. And no, it's just the container I'm holding on to right now that's creating a resistance to my experience right now because I think I should be different. I think I should be at all different than I am. Make up some fucking thing to put in the container, and then I come up with all these reasons there's something wrong with the thing in the container. It's like I'm the one maintaining the container. I'm the one that's maintaining the idea, and I'm the one that's maintaining the idea of what that container should be. The idea of what the idea should be. It's like I'm maintaining this idea right now, and I think this idea should be different than it is, and I know that the idea is correct, and I know that the idea should be different, and all of these things, and I know that one day I'll overcome this. One day I'll stop judging myself. It's like one day is fucking the biggest farce in the world. Like there is no one day, someday, tomorrow I'll do it, tomorrow I'll get it done. And sure, you can say like, oh well, there's a bunch of if I have a bunch of habits, it's like they come and go. You can't be doing all the habits at once. I guess you kind of could. Now I'm thinking of doing a bunch of habits at once. It's like, yeah, technically you could, but they also the ability to stop if you're doing them all at once. Technically, you could stop doing them all at once too. And so I'm getting a little too technical with the habits. But anyway, the opportunity is right now to let something go, even and has as that pull to do something like bit my nails. Sometimes I'll still pick at the edges, especially after I clip them. Sometimes I'll have some, spare shit that I'll nibble on. But for a while, like, I always bit my nails, and it was kind of like a I don't know, I guess nervous habit, maybe just something to do. It's kind of like thinking about myself. Like, I've started to realize, fuck, that's just when I'm not thinking about anything. It's like I feel like I should be doing more than this, doing something. And so it's just like something to do. And when I realized, like, no one's gonna stop me from biting my nails for me. Like, I'm the only one that can do it, and the only time I can do it is right now. It's the only spot. And sure, maybe it'll take, oh, I really want to do it now. And then it's like, nope, don't do it. And then it, like, almost even just a tiny bit, that pull gets a little less strong. And then they grow out, and I don't bite them, and I clip them. It's like, oh, all right, I can do that. Okay. None of them are bleeding. That's nice. I don't have fucking bloody fingers half the time. But the only place I can do that is right now. There's not another point that the habit shifts, that the habit changes, that I stop judging myself, that I stop focusing on some idea of myself relative to what I think I should be doing. It's just a familiar distraction that I can only question, let go of, stop doing right now. And I can do that no matter all the ideas that I have for not doing that. It's like, no, I got to keep thinking about myself. It's like, you don't, though. It doesn't have the benefit that you think that it does.
No, it doesn't. It dawns on me that there's a perspective that has developed over time that is really quite useful to me. And we often get overcommitted to this idea, or rather to the perception of physicality, that you are objectively on a rock that is flying through space, and that you are a tiny little body in a universe. And that perspective is perfectly fine. It's not that that's not incorrect, though of course it's incomplete. Whereas the opposite perspective of that would be the subjective, which is much more like existing within a dream, which is more or less where I'm going with this. Imagine, if you will, a single person. Let's put you, the listener, in space. Don't worry, you'll survive. We're not listening to the rules of physics here, but you are just in this void. You are in space, and you are dangling there in one spot. You do not move left, right, up, down, anywhere, which way. You can move your body, right? In fact, you can make it look like you're walking. You can do all of that stuff. So your body and everything else is still moving, but you are not moving. But around you is this sphere. Let's just say it's a sphere. It could be a box, but I don't like a box. So let's make it a sphere. And you don't know it's a sphere because it's too far for you to touch. Okay, so to you, the sphere is all you know. So you're looking at this thing, and let's just say it's one picture. So you are moving, and there's this one picture around you, which is very much like what you're doing right now. You're sitting there in your room, or standing there in your room, and there's one picture around you. Let's call it your room, right? Or the universe. Now, you don't get to move. Remember? So let's say that you pretend you're going to walk across the room, but you can't do that. So instead, the room has to change to give you the impression that you are walking across the room. Right? And it's because the room is moving, or rather, your perception of the room is moving. You are still in the same lack of space and time. You are still in the same fucking point. In fact, at the same moment, which is now, the only thing that has changed is your perception of where you are and what the room is. But nothing else has changed. Your entire life is that room changing from one picture to a next, to the next, to the next. At one point it was home, and then it was the schoolyard, and then it was high school, and then it was your job, and then it was driving a car. Right now it's sitting in your home. And it's still you in the same place and time now, here, surrounded by the same room. It's just changed form. This is something that we often forget. It's not that we're going through time so much as that now is changing. Now is moving. We are always here. That never changes. We're not going through time. We're experiencing time, but we're not going through it. We're only ever now. We're only ever in that room that we've been in since birth. That is the core of our existence. That room is an extension of us. And from that state, From that point of view, all of this comes down to your relationship with that room for the course of your existence. You're not trying to get anywhere. Somebody was asking you, like, well, why the fuck am I doing what I'm doing? It's a good question. Are you trying to make the room more than it is? Or are you trying to get to another room? Because you're always only ever going to be you here now. What's around you makes very little difference to your relationship with it. And so to me, this is what I've said. In my awareness, in my mind, in my existence, I am Almighty God. Right? Which doesn't mean that I'm in control, but that I am responsible.
Ooh, I like that. Oh man, because I haven't moved in that sense. It's like the perception of movement, but it hasn't changed. Like the scenery keeps changing, but I'm me here now. And it's not even me here now. I'm just here now. And like without being so set back or the feeling of set back and being, at the forefront of my eyes, it's like there's less consideration. There's more consideration for what's actually happening in the room as opposed to what is behind that forefront, that how I'm doing, what assumptions I'm making about how I'm doing in that room. It's like things are just playing out. Things are just happening as they are. Like always. Like they're just playing out, and I'll come up with all sorts of stories of how they're playing out, how I think they're playing out, how I think I'm doing as they're playing out, how I think I should be doing relative to how I think I'm doing, how I think things should be playing out relative to how they are playing out, and all these fucking things that don't change a fucking thing about things playing out, things happening. But I'll tell myself all of these stories about how I should be different. Oh, I should have done this by now. I should have overcome this by now. I should have dealt with this by now. I should have, you know, understood this by now. I should be better at this by now. Blah 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 blah, and all these things. And it's like there, it's just distracting me from being in the room, from just being here with opportunities to do things in where I'm at. Like, God. And without all of those stories, you're just left with yourself right now, which doesn't have to be a story. Like when I say you're left with yourself without so much of a story, there isn't so much of a difference between that at all. And then coming into the responsibility, it's like as I'm responsible for myself, it's like I'm responsible for what's happening. And I recognize that I'm not disconnected from what's happening and so that I'm inherently responsible, but to your point, not in control of what's happening. I'm just what's happening. Because if I were to be in control of what's happening, it would mean that I would have to be somehow separate. Like and if I think I'm in control, it's like I'm a step behind what's actually happening if I am in control, because I'm keeping that buffer so that I can maintain control and I can maintain some idea of what's happening. And so therefore have a say over what's happening as opposed to being what's happening and serving in what's happening instead of reigning through what's happening with that fucking hesitation, that buffer, that distance. And like the more control we think we can have or think that we do have, it's like the further from reality we actually are. It's like that gap is the illusion of control, and it's just separating myself from reality, from the reality of myself as I buy into that illusion. It's like it's an immediate trade-off to actually being involved in what's happening through there not being so many ways to cause suffering for myself. It's not to say that it won't come up. It's not to say that things won't play out. It's not to say that there's going to be a lot of discomfort or things going on, but without so much of that gap, that space, that idea of control and what should or shouldn't be happening, it's a lot harder to tell myself a story about what I think should be happening and therefore suffering if it's not matching what I think is happening. But if I again, if I don't know what's happening and I'm just there in the room, in that fucking orb, as I always am, without so many ideas and alone in that orb. Because I've had plenty of people tell me what's going on. They were pointing at, my orb saying, well, this is this is this way. You should be this, you should be that. You got to live up to this. And then that carried over to me telling myself what the orb should be, what the environment should be. But it's always what it is. Like, that doesn't change my idea of what it should be, my idea of what I am or think I should be. It doesn't change anything. Like, it doesn't actually change anything besides my experience. And my experience with that orb, and as long as I'm holding on to some fucking should or some idea of being able to change it into what I want, I'm gonna suffer at the hands of that idea that I could change it into exactly what I want. And if I do, then I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to feel better because of it. And I'm sure of it, when all of that is bullshit. I don't know any of that.
I do not, but I do know the difference between, I guess, scarcity and abundance, right? In terms of potential. And I think that that's really all that we're ever influencing. Like it's kind of like, the farther you are into your head, the harder it is to recognize opportunities. The more you're lost in telling yourself you can and can't do certain things, the more you don't do the things that could have changed your life just because you've convinced yourself that you can't, that kind of thing. And the same is very much true for, I think, reality as a whole. I think that in the same way that the most powerful force that humanity has managed to tap into is the atomic bomb. Like, at the end of the day, the deeper into reality that we go, the farther down we get, the smaller things get, the closer to the present we get, the more power and potential is there to be exploited. And I think the same is true in our lives. I think that the closer we are to the present moment, the more potential we are reflecting, right? The more awareness we are, in fact, tapping into or giving ourselves access to, because awareness only ever happens here and now, right? If you're thinking about the future, then the only thing you're aware of is your assumptions, right? If you let go of the future and the past, now you are here. Now that's all you have, right? And that's a state of attentiveness rather than constantly problem solving, because all those problems are in your head. They're assumptions, right? And so I think that there is something to that. I think there is something to how much potential we can reflect and embody based on how lost in the perception of time we are. Because when we act, when we make changes, when we do decide to exercise our will, it's only ever now. It's always now. It's always a decision now, not over time, but right here and now. And sure, it takes us the expression of time to get to that now. But that's the whole point, is that it's always ever now until we decide, this is it, I'm doing it now. Right? Until then, we put it off into time. And I think that that's the point. We put off our own potential because we're afraid of the change, right? Reality and time and space and all that existence itself here and now is the process of change. We forget that. And it's like, things are changing. No, things are change. Existence is change. You are change. There isn't a moment that you're not changing. We forget that because our thoughts allow us to make things seem stable. Our thoughts allow us to perceive these things as being unshakable. This is why I find it so funny when people bitch about highways. Why are the roads in such disrepair? It's because everything's moving all the time, including the earth that these roads are built on.
Oh, and we've been able to come up with so many ideas of what's happening right now that we totally cut ourselves off from that reality. Like, of course, things are shifting, and that video you sent a little while ago of the Earth expanding, it's like, yeah, it's gonna crack some roads up. If the Earth is growing, definitely gonna fuck up some roads for sure. But it makes me wonder, with that comparison to something like the atom, the atomic bomb, and how honed in I am right now, like the degree of influence. Like, I've had some experiences more recently where I'm, maybe kind of baked or something and just involved in the thing that I'm doing. And like, straight up, I check the clock and then I check it a little later. It seemed like and it's not even like I feel like I've done a lot of things. Like, I've done a lot of shit. And then I'll check and it's like not not much time has gone by. And then there will be situations where I'm like not super in it or lost in things. And it's like, got to repeat things, got to do things over and over. And then I find myself checking the clock more often. And all of a sudden it's like, I do like a 1/100th of the things because it's so much. How is this going? What should I be doing? Oh, should I be doing something else? And it's like a habitual tendency. But again, it's like when I'm not so focused on how it's going or how I'm doing or how something is playing out or maintaining some idea of how it should be playing out, like I'm just left with what is. I'm just left with the situation that I'm in. And that's all I've ever got. Like, I can come up with all sorts of stories. I can tell myself all sorts of stories. They're all bullshit and that they're all incomplete. They're all fragments. They're all not reality. And so if I'm in a situation where I'm doing something, it's like it's all I can do. Like that's the extent of what I can do is what I'm doing. But there is a shift as the more clearly I recognize that, or the less that's in the way, or the less expectations I have of myself or doing something in a certain way, all of a sudden my potential starts to grow and grow and grow. And the ability to just do things without so much in the way expands. It's like it actually opens up that situation and the experience of time does shift. But it's not for me thinking that like pushing myself along, like fucking whipping myself as I go, as I'm like fucking gnawing for the carrot as I go, because that's gonna like speed things right up in a sense. Or if I think there's a thing that I'm going to get out of this. There's a reason that I'm doing this as opposed to just being fully involved in it in that flow state. Like it's wild how the experience of time shifts. And it's not even like this supernatural sort of thing. Like it can seem like it if you recognize, like, oh shit, it seems like time moves slower. Did time just move slower? Is it shifting as I hone my attention into what I'm actually doing? Like, I mean, kinda. Yeah, because it's just you and your little fucking orb experiencing what is, being told by all these other things the way things are. Oh, time is exactly a thing, and it's linear, and it moves at a tick, 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 tick. It's like without having the clock, like if I didn't know, then there wouldn't be so much of an ability to measure how I'm doing or, oh, how much have I accomplished? Oh, I thought I should have accomplished more by now. It's just I'm doing what I'm doing. Like there isn't so much of another thing without focusing on the clock. And the clock's just one way that we, measure things and track things, but it's a mechanism of measurement. And without that, it gets a lot harder to prioritize something else because it's easier to see that there's not another spot. There is no other time. Like you're never experiencing another moment or another situation than just you right now in the experience that you're having in the environment that you're in, that you are. And it's the environment that you are when you're not maintaining some sort of idea of how the environment's going or what impact you think that you're having on it. It's like you're having impact on it. You don't know what that impact is. You can just keep doing shit and not trying to measure it as you go because you're always going to be wrong.
because it's not your environment. That's the hardest thing. There is no separation between the observer and the observed. And the only way to understand that is to think of a dream. You're not affecting a dream, you're affecting yourself. That's what changes the dream. You changing. It's just that we have such an inability to recognize that this is a dream of an awareness that is reality. So there's no way to wake up from it because there's nothing that could be more real than what is made from the awareness of reality itself. Everything reflected through this is existence itself. This is a dream. The observer and the observed are the same. You are looking at your mind when you dream. You're not looking at anything external. There is nothing external. It's all a product of whatever you're processing. Well, imagine that it wasn't just you, the idea of you processing, but it was everything that could ever exist from every perspective ever. And there was no limitation on your mind. So the dream itself would have no limitation. Every possibility of a dream would be within one massive dream, right? And that's what existence is. And what's funny is that this is why I like stop motion photography or like the old claymation movies, stuff like that, because that's kind of what we are, if you want to think about it. Because in the same way I was talking about the person suspended and surrounded by an orb, and every motion of what's happening around them is just a changing picture, right? This is very much how we make movies. Movies that have like 25 pictures per second look like they're moving, right? But any one frame isn't whatsoever. Well, all of those frames, all of the potential positions even that the person takes within this sphere, they all like just exist in potential, right? But if you were to take any one of those, let's just say one moment where our person is standing in the sphere and they're moving their hand from here to here, just very slightly. Okay? Well, this one and the next one makes sense to each other, right? Like it makes sense how one would go to the next one. And so that's how we experience things, is that according to how we can rationalize the process of things. Right. And it makes a lot of sense because we're perceiving things dualistically. It's like, well, that came before, this is now, that's got to come after. Right. Because what's a miracle? A miracle is when all of a sudden what comes after is totally out of the fucking expected. There's no rational explanation for it whatsoever. That's what we call a miracle. But what people like Jesus and numerous other people over time have been saying is that, it's not. It's not a miracle so much as the acceptance that we never knew what was possible. Jesus, again, pulling the guy out into the water, and he's fine for a second. He falls through. He's like, why did you let yourself become separate? Like, that is so much more telling than what little faith you have. And it's just like, why did you make yourself seem separate? And that's it. We just got lost in thought. Oh, the water's going to fall through. But in a dream, you would experience the same thing if you were convinced that you would fall through the water. But if you weren't in a dream, there's no reason that you wouldn't be. The question is a couple of things. How convinced are you that this is the physical existence that you think it is, right? And how much do you identify as just the character, not the dreamer or the dream? Because to identify as the dreamer and not the dream isn't the point, right? There is no environment. It's just you.
Ooh. And so we're always just rationalizing. It's like all of experience is just the rationalization, how I can make sense of it. And if I'm constantly trying to make sense of what's going on, then it's like I'm always a step behind what's actually happening. And then there's going to be this perception of me being separate, because it's like I have to know what's going on. I have to make sense of what's going on. And if I have preconceived notions about what I am, what reality is, then everything's gonna match that. And that's why, if I believe that I'm separate from everything, like every way that I experience everything is gonna use that rationalization. Like I'm gonna rationalize how things play out. And if I am so sure that, like the walking on water, that I'm gonna fall through because I am separate from this water, then I'm gonna fall through. And so that's ultimate responsibility of realizing, like, oh, I'm actually, my expectation, my need to rationalize something, my need to know something about what's happening is shifting my experience. Like, it's coming from me. It's always coming from me. And my need to be sure requires me to rationalize something and requires me to limit the experience so that I can make sense of it. But if I don't have to make sense of it so much, then I don't know, more things are at play. Like there's more opportunity, there's more ability to explore what's possible. Like if I don't know what's possible, if I'm not sure of what I am or am not capable of, I can start finding out. If I'm not sure or unsure of what is possible in reality, I can start finding out. And that's when, the novel experiences start happening. Like how many times we see it in reality, something everyone's sure of, oh, that can't happen. That's impossible. Someone does it, all of a sudden everyone can do it. Someone's got to be the first one to do it. Someone's got to be the crazy motherfucker who's like, I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. I'm not saying that it definitely absolutely is, but when there's less in the way, like if there isn't so much of a feeling of I'm separate from this, like what's saying that I can't do it? What's saying that I can't do? And I'm not even saying do fucking like magic and shit. Just like do anything. And it comes down to just our day-to-day experience, how much we maintain an idea of, oh, I can do this, I can't do this. But when you're like, I don't know, I'm not sure if I can do that or not. Let's find out. And if you can maintain that in each and every moment, in each and every experience, then things are going to start shifting and changing. And all of a sudden, you're going to be not unrecognizable to yourself just because you're not so goddamn sure about what you can and can't do out of, your desire to be sure of something. It's like when you let go of your need to be sure of something, a lot more potential comes into play.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really the only time that we push the boundaries is when we're willing to not be sure, when we're willing to push into the unknown. And that's all of our advancements in all of our history have come from somebody just going, what's beyond this comfortable little bubble that we've made for ourselves. Right. And it's just because we're curious enough to go and find out and put ourselves at risk in doing so, which requires a lot of faith in yourself. I've often talked about, people who were explorers once upon a time. That takes a lot of guts. Just you on a boat going to some place where you've never been and you don't know language or nothing. You're just like, I'm going to see what's over here. That's insane. I want to mention, because Andrew and I recently had a chance to go and check out Chris Angel in person. Anybody who hasn't seen Chris Angel on TV, definitely go and check out Chris Angel's show. Just incredible. But it's so very easy to look at it, especially being on TV, and go, yeah, but it's TV. They could be doing a gimmick. It could be just some kind of an illusion, and that's fine. And then we went and saw him in person, and even then, you're like, that's really good. Like, that's really good. That's really hard to see how you fake that at all. And I was talking to somebody recently afterwards, and they were like, do you think it's real, or do you think it's just a trick? And my answer was, I don't want to know. See, I don't want to know, because I would prefer to wonder if it's possible. I would prefer to wonder if it's possible and then find out myself. If it's really something I'm curious about, then it's a matter of being in the present and getting out of my way, right? Which is something I appreciated about that show, about the presentation he did towards the end of the show, where he was talking about allowing yourself to open your imagination, to understand that all of the different worlds that you might see within your imagination are entirely possible, and some of them don't have the laws of physics like we do here. To open up to that, to allow that to come through you into this present, to literally alter the sphere in altering yourself within that sphere, just blew my mind, because that would be true magic. And all it is the recognition, I don't know. I don't know what I am or what's possible. I don't know what I am. I don't know. And you don't know what you are. And it's so easy to go, well, my body is not separate from the reality that you're experiencing. So you're the whole thing. You're the observed and the observer expressing itself. Any idea you can come up with about what you are is so far off the mark. And that is the great unknown. That's it. And it's so funny, because people will say, well, one of the most important questions you can ask yourself is, who am I? Yeah, that's true. Don't answer it, though.
Man, I don't know what I am. Fuck. Oh, god damn. Recently, I've been coming up with so many fucking ideas of what I am. This has been a lot of fun. This has been a really, really fun I feel like we haven't had really a conversation like this in a while. Oh, but it's, yeah, uncertainty, man. It's exciting, and I don't have to know what I am, and fuck, things are a lot more exciting when I don't have an idea, and I'm not trying to come up with an idea. I'm not trying to be something, and even the assumptions about what I shouldn't be, or my fears or concerns, it's like, yeah, I don't know, let them play out, whatever. I still don't know what I am. And as I do that, I still don't know what I am. And as that happens, I still don't know what I am. And I can't be sure of anything. And if I can keep doing that, if I can keep being uncertain, then it's harder for things to stick in the same way, because I still don't know. And I can come up with all the assumptions in the world, all the ideas. I can come up with plenty of stories what I am. I've done it for years. I never knew. None of them were ever correct either. They've never been correct. Like, holy fuck. I don't know what I am. And I don't have to. And that's the beauty.
Yeah, no, it's enough that I am. That is an unending rabbit hole of how much I am. And it's so funny that you can go out of your way looking for the unknown, or you can accept that you've never left it. That the only thing you think you know are the assumptions that you're holding on to for a sense of security and comfort. You never left the unknown. Everything is still unknown. You don't have to go looking for it. Just embrace it. And that is the great adventure. That is the final frontier for humanity. I am absolutely certain of it. Surrendering to what is, being in reality, accepting the unknown rather than desperately looking for an answer to who are we, how did we get here, what's our purpose, please someone tell me, hold my hand, instead of just being responsible and living for you here and now, because nobody can do it better.
And I think that is a fantastic spot to wrap this episode up. Fuck, dude, it's been a lot of fun. I'm glad we did this one live, and I appreciate all of the comments on the side here. I am, yeah, feeling, I don't know, I don't know, and that's cool. And I don't know what the fuck I'm feeling or what I am, and that's just it. Is like I can't even necessarily pin it to anything, and that's exciting because I got this, I got where I'm at, I got what I'm doing. So yeah, very much appreciate everyone for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun.
Fuck yeah, it has been a blast. And this is episode 20 of season 5. So that means we have one episode left of season 5. And then we're going into season 6. I believe that we're going to record those episodes at the Netherlands retreat. So likely this will be out before then, but possibly not. Either way, if you would like to join us at one of our upcoming events, definitely consider doing so. We've got one coming up in Virginia Beach, and we've got one coming up in California. You can find the details on our website, as well as the ticket prices and everything else. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. Our events are the shit. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to try and lie about it. Straight up. No pandering, but wow. And the reason I say that is because of you coming to the event. Not Andrew, though that's true too. And not me, because I could be pointing at myself, but you, the person who comes, because the retreat really is just like society. It's like the rest of the world. It's a result of what we do individually. Everybody there. And so everybody has an impact. And as much as every retreat has been incredible, it has been because of the people who go to them. So we look forward to seeing you at one of these events. We look forward to you helping us create one of these events. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you for being here and being you.
Thank you. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.